Hello, my name is Ashley Sherrod, and I will be presenting a lesson today on advocacy for special education. The purpose of this lesson is to teach individuals about understanding special education and the paradigm shift that is recommended to occur to change our current special education system. As a special education teacher and teacher leader, it is important to provide parents, students, professional colleagues in the community with information regarding special education and its historical impact on education today. I would like to increase awareness within this capacity. As a teacher in the arena of education, my daily work is not only providing knowledge to students, but it is also advocating for their rights and their best interests. Today, the culture of the schools that we work in as teachers and the relationship between colleagues, parents, and students directly impacts the special education teacher's ability to advocate effectively for our students. When it comes to students with special needs, which extends beyond typical education into special education, there is much to consider. The No Child Left Behind Act, which passed Congress with overwhelming bipartisan support in 2001 and was signed into law by President George W. Bush on January 8, 2002, is the name of the most recent update of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965. NCLB was implemented due to a growing concern that the American education system was viewed as no longer competitive, and as a result, this act increased the responsibility of the federal government's role in holding schools accountable for the academic progress of all students. Now that Democrats and Republicans have recently started its reauthorization process, it is time to consider change and examine one particular aspect, special education, which raises several different challenges. In case you are asking, what is the importance of NCLB in the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965? Let's travel back in time for a second. The Elementary and Secondary Education Act was part of President Lyndon B. Johnson's Great Society program. This act was implemented in 1965 and intended to create a clear role for the federal government in K through 12 policy. As a result, the policy offered more than $1 billion a year in aid during the first statutory section, known as Title I, to school districts to help cover the cost of educating disadvantaged students. The NCLB law outlines that states must assess students in the arena of reading and math in grades 3 through 8 and one time in high school. Results must be reported for student populations in the subgroup areas of English learners, special education students, racial minorities, and children from low income families. It is disturbing to hear and understand this. However, these are the same subgroups that demonstrate disparities based upon current achievement gaps. Achievement gaps occur when one group of students outperforms another group and the difference in average scores for the two groups is statistically significant. NCES examines the achievement gaps between Black, white, and Hispanic students utilizing the NAEP data to illuminate patterns and changes in these gaps over a period of time, in addition to identifying factors that may underlie such gaps. It was mandated that all states were responsible for moving students to proficient levels by the 2013 to 2014 school year. Each data It was mandated that all states were responsible for moving students to proficient levels by the 2013-14 school year. Each state was able to determine what their individualized proficiency levels looked like. However, in 2015, the deadline had passed, and as a result, none of the states had reached 100% proficiency for all students. Unfortunately, the assessment of students with disabilities is a challenging issue in education policy. For decades, students with disabilities were not assessed or educated along with their peers. This was due to the notion of our education system not valuing special education students. This all changed when the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act was implemented. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act is a federal law that requires schools to serve the educational needs of eligible students with disabilities. Ultimately, the needs of exceptional children cannot be met in a traditional setting, and as a result, the provision of services is provided by special education teachers. Special education teachers is the roadmap to an exceptional child's education. Special education is a service that helps students with disabilities access their education. Without this, the child's education is not categorized as free and appropriate. This is a violation of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. This does not mean that all children with identified disability needs receive special education services. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act mandated that students with disabilities participate in state assessments. Many states argued it was unfair to students with severe cognitive disabilities to take a general test because they were unable to achieve proficiency. As a remedy to the problem, the Education Department issued regulations allowing states to alter assessments for some students with disabilities. Students who received special education services but were unlikely to achieve proficiency on the general test could take a modified assessment covering the same content with easier questions. There still remains much debate about the solutions implemented. The assessment of students with disabilities will remain challenging to understand until researchers obtain a better understanding of all cognitive disorders in order to understand how to effectively bring about a resolution. Policymakers will need to understand how to balance setting high expectations without overburdening teaching professionals and students. Policymakers need to adopt an assessment system that uses computerized adaptive tests. As a result, adaptive assessment provides a custom test for each student based on their answers to test questions. Special education teachers need to collaborate with their professional counterparts in order to empower parents, students, and the community to become vocal with regards to encouraging policymakers to create equal opportunity for all students by setting all students up for success despite their disability needs, socioeconomic status, creed, gender, and race.